1910. America was still young, still building itself into the industrial giant it dreamed of becoming. Cities were expanding, railroads stretching like iron veins across the continent, immigrants arriving daily with hopes of freedom and fortune. Yet, in the Pacific Northwest, Idaho, Montana, Washington, the wilderness remained untamed, vast, and dangerous. Most Americans at the time barely knew what lay beyond the Mississippi River. For them, the West was a distant, almost mythical frontier filled with mountains, forests, and danger. But for the people living there, loggers, miners, homesteaders, railroad workers, and newly stationed rangers of the fledgling U.S. Forest Service, the West was home. And in the summer of 1910, that home was about to become hell on earth. The summer had been dry. Not just dry, catastrophically so. Rain hadn't touched much of the Northwest for weeks. The forests, thick with pine and larch, had become tinder boxes. A single spark could turn thousands of acres into a furnace. Unfortunately, there wasn't just one spark. There were thousands. Lightning storms rolled over the mountains, igniting tree after tree. Railroad workers, careless with their coal-fired engines, left behind cinders that smoldered in the brush. Loggers abandoned campfires. By early August, more than 1,000 separate small fires burned across the region. Forest rangers tried to fight them, but they were young, underfunded, and mostly inexperienced. The Forest Service itself was only 5 years old, created in 1905 by President Theodore Roosevelt and his close friend, conservationist Gifford Pinchot. Roosevelt had envisioned the service as a guardian of America's wild lands, a force that would protect forests from destruction. But in 1910, it was little more than a struggling experiment. There were too few rangers, too few tools, and almost no real training for fighting wildfires. They had shovels, buckets, axes, and their bare hands. Against the growing flames, it was like throwing pebbles into the sea. Still, the young rangers tried. Men worked day and night, digging fire lines, beating flames with wet sacks, even setting small backfires in desperate attempts to starve the larger blazes of fuel. They were exhausted, half-starved, and underpaid. But they carried on with a kind of reckless courage. Then came the wind. On August 20th, 1910, a storm system swept into the mountains of Idaho and Montana. Winds screamed through the canyons at hurricane force, 70 miles per hour and more. Those 1,000 small fires suddenly merged into one unimaginable inferno. In less than 48 hours, it devoured nearly 3 million acres of forest. Entire towns vanished. Rivers boiled from the heat. Trees didn't just burn, they exploded, shooting flames and embers high into the sky. The fire was so intense that it created its own weather. Witnesses described tornadoes of flame spiraling into the heavens. Ash fell hundreds of miles away, darkening skies in states that weren't even touched by the blaze. At midday, the world turned black. People lit lanterns to see their own hands. Birds, blinded by the smoke, crashed into buildings. Horses panicked and ran themselves to death. And in the middle of it all, ordinary men, loggers, miners, farmers, and rangers, fought to survive. Some became heroes. Others simply vanished, their names erased in the flames. The newspapers of the time called it the Big Burn. But what they didn't tell, what got lost in the smoke and chaos, was the hidden side of the story. The secret government decisions, the political games, the sheer human desperation, and the quiet bravery of people whose lives were consumed by